25th, also from, not also, but from 11 to noon. It's been more than 3 years and 3 months since Russia invaded Ukraine, plunged the region into this horrible devastation. As the war rages on and U.S. support, sadly, from both the public and the government wavers under Trump, regular people continue to step up and deliver via direct aid and support on the ground. In April, we spoke with 2 Ukrainian support leaders about shrinking government support here, but on the other hand, the aid flowing from parts of New England. Today, we're joined live at the library by 2 people who are also working to help Ukrainians on the ground there. Susan Matheson is co-founder of Common Man for Ukraine, a volunteer humanitarian and aid operation based out of New Hampshire. Alan Himmer is president of the Ukraine Crisis Aid Group. It's a nonprofit focused on medical aid to Ukraine. They've both been there a lot of times. Susan, Alan, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for joining us. Susan, let's start with you. Just elaborate on what Jim said. What is the Common Man? What do you do?
We provide food, essential, critical humanitarian aid, and trauma counseling to children whose fathers have been killed in the war in Ukraine.
And you've met with widows and the children going over there to Ukraine.
We've hosted more than 1,000 kids through our 3-week trauma counseling centers with Ukrainian kids in Poland. But what we've learned by visiting these children in their home is that their mothers are in terrible crisis. They're living in a war zone. They're trying to support their families. They're wondering what's right for their children. They're dealing with their own grief. And for them to be the best parents they can be, we know we have to provide them with the support we're also providing the children. So in August, we have our first trial of a mother's retreat for widows.
Oh. Before we want to delve into the details of that in a minute, because we read some of the stories, including a piece you and a colleague wrote for I think it was the Globe. Why do you do this? I mean, I'm serious. Why did you decide you want to spend part of your life doing this?
4 of us have no personal connections to Ukraine, but we're humans. And what we saw when those first train stations were just filled with the crush of humanity, of people panicked, trying to get out. And we saw these mothers holding onto the hands of these little kids and a couple of bags of belongings. We just had to stand up.
Could you describe, I want to stay with you one more minute before we get Alan. Describe the moment when you and your friends, what happened? What was I understand what the spark was, what you saw. Who said what to what? Because this is a major operation.
How did you decide to get in a plane and go over there?
No, I mean, how did you decide to create the whole thing?
It's a great story. People in New England know Alex Ray, who owns the Common Man family of restaurants. He's a good friend. We were having coffee on February 24th, and I said, we have to do something. And he said, the only way we're going to know what Ukrainians really need is to go there. So we should go. And we tied in with the Rotary clubs in Poland and in Ukraine and found out from the ground what was the most needed, and that was services to children. And we gathered our courage and we joined with these Rotarian partners, and we said to ourselves, we have to be as brave as Ukrainians.
By the way, every good decision was made in a restaurant. I want to make that totally clear. So Alan, tell us about the Ukraine Crisis Aid Group.
So Ukraine Crisis Aid Group focuses on aid to medical institutions, medics, and frontline units that are volunteers helping people in the villages and at the front lines.
How'd this come about? And how, again, same deal. How'd you get involved?
When the war started, when the big war started, we were just shocked and horrified, like most people, and wanted to try to do something.
Who's we?
My wife and I, Megan. And we started to look at opportunities to potentially donate. And then we decided that we were going to fly over and visit. I actually have a couple of third cousins who live in Ukraine. My great-grandparents emigrated to Lawrence, Massachusetts from Ukraine 120 years ago.
Had you ever spoken to those relatives before? Okay.
Never. No. Found them, contacted them. We flew over there. We met. And we ended up finding out that amongst this network of very distant relatives and their friends, neighbors, almost everyone there was volunteering for something and giving vast portions of their paychecks to the effort. So we asked them, what do you need? We ended up putting together an Amazon gift registry and had an overwhelming response, shipping things to Ukraine.
On the registry are the things, the needs, and
Everything
you
they
just pick
needed.
them like at a wedding.
Just
kinda
like
deal.
for a wedding,
Okay.
right? And then one of the unique things that we found was that people really were worried. Well, what happens with these things? Maybe they'll just be resold.
Yeah.
Maybe that's corruption. So we put in place a chain of custody where everything that gets donated gets photographed at multiple points in the chain, all the way to the end user, and then we get those photos back to the people who donate.
Great.
Wow.
Before you describe on the ground work in 1 second, I just want to stay with the background thing. A lot of us care as much as you do about these things. The vast majority of us don't do anything except talk. I don't mean just people who have talk shows. We talk and we bemoan the horrors that exist to people we should care about. You've decided to act, and you're probably too humble to answer this question, but give it a go anyway. Starting with you, Alan, what separates you, do you think, from those who care but can't act or don't act, do you think?
I think I had the opportunity to act, that I'm retired.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And I had the means in terms of I can speak Russian and Polish and passable Ukrainian, so I could act on the ground and interact with the people there in their language.
Okay. How about you, Susan? What do you think?
I happen to be a widow, and I raised 2 children on my own from when they were very young.
Okay.
I knew those mothers and those kids needed help, and I knew that the community, the world community in this case, could hold them up.
That's Susan Matheson. She's the co-founder of Common Man for Ukraine. Alan Himmer is here, president of Ukraine Crisis Aid Group.
You know, Susan, when you think of mothers and children, you think as a mother or father, one of your foremost jobs is to make your children feel safe, which is really hard to do in a war zone. So tell us what you've heard from these widows and what you've heard from these kids about this constant bombardment.
It's unbelievable. Ukrainians are so brave, and they're so committed to winning this war. If you ask a Ukrainian about what will happen, it's never if we win the war, it's when we win the war.
Alan is nodding. If you're not watching the streaming, he's nodding in agreement. Go ahead, Susan.
And in our trauma counseling centers, these children wear their vyshyvanka with pride, and they sing their
That's
Ukrainian.
a shirt. What is the
Yes,
vyshyvanka?
a cultural dress.
Okay.
That's-
I'm wearing one right now.
Okay.
You
Beautiful,
can't see.
actually. It's really
Made
great.
in the village that my great-grandmother came
That's
from.
fabulous. That's great.
Their patriotism is unsurpassed in the world. These children are so committed to their country, to their culture, to their history.
But what do you tell the mothers about how to make their children feel safe? You know, you hear about this in the Blitz in England, you know, where people would be playing, the mothers would be playing chess with the kids down in the basement. And what do they do there? How do you deal with that?
There, they use an air alert app on their phone 24/7 to listen to the current bombing and the incoming bombing and warnings, and they decide, shall we go to the bomb shelter or shall we not? We build resilience in these kids that we can't solve this problem, but we can give them coping skills. You've lost your dad, you're living in a war zone, you're worried about your future. What are ways that you can cope with those uncertainties? And so that's what we try to do. We can't solve it for them, but we can give them tools to move forward.
How many times have you been there?
13.
Tell the story about the one little kid who had, I don't want to give it away, but who essentially didn't want to be near a place where her father was laid to rest.
So these trauma counseling sessions are 3 weeks long, and kids come, they're kind of cold and wondering, this is scary, they're in a new country, and because we bring them to Poland to be safe. That's a key part of this, so that they can relax for 3 weeks. And what the mothers reported to us is this young boy would not visit his father's grave, and his father had died 6 months previous to the retreat. And when he returned, he said, I can do it now. I want to go see Dad's
How old was
grave.
this kid?
12.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
Alan Himmer, tell us about, first of all, was this from Georgetown? Were you in the Foreign Service? Were you learning the Foreign Service there? Is that why you learn how to speak these languages?
I actually took Russian at Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay,
God.
okay.
And a large number of our volunteers are classmates of mine. Our board of directors are all volunteer classmates of mine from Andover.
That's great. Why did you take the Russian?
It was 1981. We were in the Cold War, and I felt at the time that it was necessary to understand the language, culture, and history of our main adversary to know whether or not we could counter them or whether we should understand them better and make friends with them.
boy, do
That's
I
quite-
feel pathetic.
yeah, that's
I
quite
should
impressive,
say.
yeah.
Tell
And
us
so
about your experience.
the ambulances, though. Tell us about the
And going
ambulances.
there. Tell us, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So A lot of people don't realize, but the Russians have destroyed over 600 ambulances in Ukraine so far. And it's not a coincidence. They view ambulances as a target which will help to depopulate and demoralize the population, particularly in the eastern parts. So with our charity, we raised money for 3 ambulances together with a charity in England, Medical Lifelines Ukraine. And in February this year, I drove one of those ambulances from England with a co-driver, one of King Charles's lawyers, actually.
Is that true?
Really?
And we drove out to Ukraine and did a handover with local emergency crews. Now, the second part of that is, while working to donate ambulances to Ukraine, we learned that a large number of these ambulances within about 50 miles of the front lines are being specifically hunted in something called ambulance safari. There are Russian army drone teams that use their drones to go out and hunt ambulances and take them out one at a time. And interestingly and cynically, they have online chat groups where they have a point system and they compare scores. Yeah. So
video game.
what we've started to do is we found a local engineering group in Ukraine, and we put drone jammers on ambulances to prevent the drones from killing the ambulances.
Spectacular. Let me just
Why-
say, wait, before you go ahead, because we should have done this earlier. If you want to learn more while we're talking about Alan's group, it's ukrainecrisisAid.org, and Susan's is commonmanforukraine.org. I'm sorry,
And
Margaret.
I just want to be clear about why Russians are going after the ambulances. The demoralization, is that the reason?
Yeah, the idea is to depopulate the, let's say, first 50 miles beyond the front lines. By depopulating those, you kill public transport, medical, power grid. If you can wipe those out, people will move away. When they move away, the Russians will find it easier to invade because there'll be less of a support structure, less food, and everything for the Ukrainian defenders.
Well, you're at risk when you're there. But how many times have you been there?
Well, Ukraine overall, about 40 times, including business and such. But during the war, let's see, about 7 or 8 times now.
How much at risk are you starting with you when you're there? Be honest. Don't.
It depends very much where. If you're in the west of Ukraine, then there are air raids almost every night, but the air raids are a nuisance. They disrupt everyone's sleep. They don't kill very many
And
people.
if you're
at all.
not in the western
If
part?
you're in the east, then the hairiest it got was February this year. I had a 152 millimeter artillery shell land about 250, 300 yards away from me. And the blast radius is 200 yards, so pieces of shrapnel were bouncing off of buildings and things around me.
And when that happens, you do what?
Well, first of all, I'm wearing 2 layers of body armor. I got soft body armor and hard plate.
And
helmet.
afterwards, you just go about your business?
And you duck, and you pick up. I was carrying a portable generator for a blood bank at that point. It was one of our donations. And my Ukrainian colleague and I picked it up and got into that basement really quickly.
You had a near miss, too, at
Yes,
least.
we
Did
did.
you not? What happened to you?
Yes, we did, near Kherson. We had a bombing that occurred, it landed exactly where we had been about 10 minutes previous. And when we deliver food to these frontline villages where families are waiting by the hundreds for a food delivery, and we drive up and there's bombing happening, you can hear it, the air raid sirens are blaring, there's no time for fear.
Yeah.
There's no time for fear.
So
I admire that
So
a lot.
when you came in earlier, Alan, you brought this little patch, and it's got the Ukraine flag colors. And I remember early on when this whole thing happened, we would have people on that were supporting Ukraine, and they come in with little flags and little pins, and there was a tremendous outrage in the United States over this war. To me, we've sort of bailed out. I mean, we all saw what happened between President Trump and President Zelensky in the Oval Office. And do these people feel like we've really just pulled the rug out from underneath, Susan?
They still depend on us. They're still hoping we will stand up and stand by them. And what I can tell you, Common Man for Ukraine receives donations from thousands and thousands of people across the U.S. These are people who are expressing in a loud, clear voice with their donations that ordinary Americans are standing up for ordinary Ukrainians, that we are behind them by and large, and we will continue to stand by them through this war. I can't sit at the negotiation table with any of the peace negotiators, but I can do this. I can raise money in the United States. I can fill a warehouse in Warsaw. And with the help of people all over the United States who can care, I can make a difference for kids. That's what we're going to do.
Do you encounter, I don't know what the proper noun is, concern, apprehension, anger about the fact that the United States appears to be on the verge of abandonment of the Ukrainians, Alan?
The regular Ukrainian people that we meet generally draw a distinction between the American government and the American people. The vast majority of them believe that the American government is currently acting in a way which isn't necessarily consistent with how they understand the American people to be wanting to act. And I think that's a fair approximation of it for
Yeah, but
majority
the
of the
bottom
American
line for
population.
them is still a negative bottom line, even if your attitude is Alan and Susan are not aberrational, they're representative of the American people. Well, you do what you do and it's fabulous, but I think we can agree all the philanthropic work in the world can't possibly fill the hole that's created by the decisions of our government.
As Susan said earlier, the fact is the Ukrainians are going to fight on. If the U.S. stops supporting them today, the Ukrainians won't stop fighting. And you could think of it this way. During the American Revolution, if the French had said, we've decided to not support you anymore, would the Patriots have stopped fighting and just given over New England to the British?
What do you
They
think
wouldn't.
that is in the DNA of a people with that level of courage and commitment to their country? When you see that and feel that?
Once in a century, these people have an opportunity to secure their freedom. And typically in the past, the Russians have managed to suppress that. They see this as that one more opportunity in a century that might not come again. And they want to take advantage of it and ensure that for their children's sake and grandchildren's sake, they will have a free country.
You know, we have only about a minute and a half left, Susan, but I wanted to ask you about the children that have been kidnapped by the Russians and taken to Russia from their families in Ukraine. Do we know what the deal is? I'm not sure I trust Secretary of State Rubio saying that we know, and tell us what's going on there.
We believe that it's a gross underestimation of the 20,000 that's quoted often. We think it's maybe twice that. Our organization does not go into Russia to retrieve children. We have heard stories of families who've had their children taken and they're in desperate search. We support the United States continuing to support that information, to make it available, to continue to search for these children. They deserve nothing less.
Yeah, supposedly the database was eliminated, and,
Yes.
and now Rubio says it's back.
Yes.
Do we think it's back?
I hope it's back.
Okay.
Can I read a text we just got from Mike in Boston? These two patriots are making me proud to be an American again, and honestly a bit ashamed of how little I'm able to do. So I assume and Marjorie will read the websites again in a minute, if people go to those websites, they can find out how to get involved, how to contribute, how to volunteer, how to whatever the hell they choose to do.
One great opportunity on June 18th. We're having
yes.
a
Your webinar.
We're having
What is that?
June 18th at 2 o'clock. If you can go to our website, commonmanforukraine.org, and register for that free webinar. We'll tell you how we do, what we do. It's miraculous, 4 million pounds of food into a war zone, 700 trucks in and out safely. And also we'll be talking to two of the children from our trauma counseling, Ukrainian children from our trauma counseling
2
center.
o'clock, June 18th, and at your website.
Yes.
We'll give the website. How's the food at Common Man? I'm sorry, but it is who I am.
The food and the
How is it?
fellowship is fantastic.
Oh, you've been there too?
I eat there all the time.
It's great. Congratulations to both of you. We're
Yeah,
really glad you're
thank
here.
you
and
very much
Thank
for
you for
coming
having us
in.
here.
Thank you.
As
Slava
Mike-
Ukraini
What does that mean?
means glory to Ukraine. And no Ukrainian will hear it without responding Heroyam Slava, which means actually glory to the heroes.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Thank you very much
Aye.
for coming in. It's
Great.
been very uplifting to talk to you both. Okay, we've been speaking with Susan Matheson, co-founder of Common Man for Ukraine, volunteer humanitarian operation based out of New Hampshire. I'm going to give you the website twice, commonmanforukraine.org. That's commonmanforukraine.org. Thank you very much, Susan. And Alan Himmer, president of the Ukraine Crisis Aid Group, a nonprofit focused on medical aid to Ukraine. The website there is ukrainecrisisaid.org, ukrainecrisisaid.org. .org, and the aid is spelled AID. It's spelled out.
And the webinar, June 18th, 2 o'clock. Go to your website, Susan, and check it out. Thanks to you both.
Thank
Really
you so
appreciate
much again. CommonManForUkraine.org and UkraineCrisisAid.org. Thank you very, very much. Coming up, just enough time left for our Two More Things segment. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.